Okay, hello everyone. Just wait 1 minute. Let me make sure everything is all right. Give me one quick second here, folks. I think we are live, and I think we are. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to our annual NHL free agency live stream. And today we're looking at a couple of very interesting updates as free agency starts in just under half an hour, probably closer to 20 minutes now. So, an interesting note there, but the new season is upon us, and we're bound to see some trades, some offer sheets, some signings, and other movement that's going to be happening today. So, very interesting to note there. So, once again, I am sorry for any background noise, and the Wi-Fi might be a little bit spotty as there's a little bit of storm just outside. So, if it's a little bit spotty, I do apologize. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about free agency. Now, just give me one quick second here. Let me make sure that everything is still up and running. So just give me one quick second here, folks, and then we'll talk about all the things that have happened so far earlier today. So hold on a minute here, folks. Let me just make sure everything is up and running. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Let's see. Just give me 1 second here. Hold on a minute here, folks. And let's see. Hold on a minute here. I think everything's working, so just give me one quick second. So yeah, that looks good. Okay. Let's see. Let's put this over here. And I think we are up and running. Okay, so that's over there. That goes there. So hello everyone, and welcome back to another end-to-end hockey live stream. This is gonna be my last live stream in quite some time. Don't know when my next live stream will be. We might do a live stream for like some big piece of news that happens in like July or August. But like this is the last scheduled live stream for quite some time. So once again, I hope you guys are liking the live streams for free agency, the draft, all of those playoff ones we did. So once again, I'll try and do more live streams in the coming weeks, in the coming month, but this is going to be my last scheduled live stream for quite some time. So like I said, today is free agency day. So today the new season starts. There's a whole bunch of players who are UFAs who can now sign with new teams as of 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. They can sign with their new clubs. So we'll see who ends up getting moved here. So as you can see, I got a little bit of a graphic here. So as you can see on the sides here are my top 20 players on my end-to-end hockey trade bait list. So you guys can look at them. You guys can look at my entire end-to-end hockey trade bait board on my trade on my blog. But so far with the trade board, we have Larkin at number 1, we have Werenski at number 2, Trocheck's number 3, Darnell Nurse is number 4, Hellebuck is number 5. On top of that, it is Riley at number 6, Coleman at number 7, Binnington at number 8. At number 9 is Ricard Raquel, 10 is Alex Nikishin, 11 is Jake DeBrusk, 12 is Brian Rust, 13 is Shane Wright, 14 is Owen Tippett, 15 is Aiden Hill, 16 is Ryan O'Reilly, 17 is Cole Perfetti, 18 is Dougie Hamilton, 19 is Devin Levi, and 20 is Alex DeBrincat. Those are the guys who are on my top 20 of my end-to-end hockey trade bait board. Once again, I have a top 40, so you guys can go check out my entire list at the end-to-end hockey trade on the end-to-end hockey blog. So if you guys want to definitely check that out. But those are the top 20, so we'll see if any of these guys do end up getting moved at some point today. On the bottom part, you'll see my top 50 UFAs. So once again, as they get signed, I will wind up updating it. So I do have to actually really quickly here updates Vegas signing Anderson. So just give me one quick second here, folks. As Vegas signed Anderson, so VGK keeps Anderson, so he was number 2 on my list. So that's interesting to note there. And then, of course, on the top here, you can see the actual top 20 I have on the end-to-end hockey trade bait board. And I will be trying on the end-to-end hockey free agent board, and I will be trying to update this as players sign so that you guys can get the updated list on the very top. You'll see when it loops around, I already have Anderson, which just signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. So he's already been signed, so very interesting to note there. But like I said, I'm going to try and update this as we go along throughout the day. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we'll just talk about some things that have happened earlier today. There has actually been some pretty interesting pieces of news. So once again, we'll just look at some of the insiders are saying and just really quickly update what everyone else is saying. So first, when it comes to a couple of interesting signings, Radko Gudas, just before I started hopping on this live stream, recently just signed a contract extension. 6 years times $1.5 million in the Florida Panthers organization. So not a bad pickup here. Like, he's 36 years old, so it's a little bit of a longer term. But getting Gudas at $1.5 million is a steal and a half for the Florida Panthers. So really solid stuff there from the Panthers as they sign Gudas. I'll actually just put this here. Gudas signs with Florida at 6 times 1.5. So very interesting to note there, but that is Radko Gudas, who has signed with the Florida Panthers. So very interesting to note there. On top of that, some other things that have been happening over the past little while. Nico Hischier and Bowen Byram have both signed extensions. Once again, they were eligible to as of July 1st. Hischier gets a 5-year extension AAV of $11.7 million, and Byram gets a 6-year extension with an AAV of $12.5 million. So very interesting to note there with these two signings by the Devils and the Hawks. So interesting note there. Like I said, Hischier is all right. Like, I don't think he's a $10 million plus player, but with the cap going up, it's not a terrible contract. And it's only for 5 years, so it's not like it's a long-term deal. But the Byram contract makes Byram the highest paid defenseman in the entire NHL. So that's surprising. I was not expecting Bowen Byram to become the highest paid NHL defenseman. I don't think he'll stay there because Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar both a year out of being unrestricted free agents. So very interesting to note there, but I expect those guys to probably surpass Byram, but for the time being at least, Bowen Byram is the highest paid NHL defenseman. So very interesting to note there. Extends in Chicago at 6 times 12.5. So very interesting to note there. And then Hischier extends in Jersey at 5 times 11.7. So very interesting to note there. A couple of very interesting extensions that have been handed out over the past little while. Love your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below on those signings so far. We do have a couple of other signings here that I want to touch on here. So according to some other recent reports from some of the insiders that have been talking about some things, first, Pierre LeBrun did mention that there could be a reunion in Philadelphia between the Flyers and Claude Giroux. Giroux is right now scheduled to hit UFA status after spending the past, I think it was 4 years in the Ottawa Senators organization, and there's a possibility Giroux might go back to Philadelphia. So that's very interesting to note there. We did see 2 trades happen earlier today. The first one was the Dallas Stars and Nashville Predators hooked up on a deal. Once again, we said there was a very good chance the Dallas Stars were not going to be able to extend Maverick Bourque because Bourque is actually a pretty decent middle 6'4", but they don't have enough cap space trying to sign Jason Robertson right now. So they moved Bourque along with Ilya Lyubushkin to get his cap hit off their boards to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a second and third round pick. The second round pick is Nashville's next year, and the third round pick is Vegas's the year after. So once again, it's a very interesting trade. I was really hoping Ottawa was going to be able to land Maverick Bourque, but alas, they are not able to. A second and third round pick is not half bad, in my opinion, for the Preds and the Stars. I do think Bourque's going to fit in quite phenomenally in the middle 6 for the Nashville Predators. I think he probably gets like a $5 to $6 million AAV deal, and once again, I think he could be a really effective middle 6er for the Nashville Predators. And Lyubushkin, while he does have a bad contract, is not a half bad third pair defenseman, making $2.75 million. And I do think he could be a very serviceable third pair right shot defenseman for that Nashville Predators team. And then for the Dallas Stars, once again, they're never going to sign Bourque with needing to sign Jason Robertson right now. So they're able to get a couple of pieces back. Second round pick next year's draft. Not sure how Nashville's going to be at next year's draft. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And they also got Vegas at third in 2 years' time. So at least it's a little bit extra draft capital, but the Stars do lose Bourque as well as Lyubushkin. And then we also saw the Maple Leafs winding up trading Nick Robertson. Finally, Robertson gets his wish and is dealt out of Toronto. He's going to the team with the GM who drafted him, and that's Kyle Dubas. Dubas trades a 4th round pick to Toronto in exchange for Nick Robertson. So very interesting to note there, as Robertson as well as Bourque and Lyubushkin have been traded. Now, Robertson was actually on my trade board as well. Just give me one quick second here. I just want to double check where I put him. Hold on a minute here, folks. Give me one quick second. And I'll let you guys thoughts down in the comment section in the chat below on what you think of the signings we've seen so far today. Let you guys thoughts down below. Let's see here. So we have Nick Robertson and Ilya Lyubushkin. They're both on my trade board. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Let's see. Lyubushkin was number 26. And let's see here. Lyubushkin was 26. And Robertson was 36. So 26 and 36 are off of my trade bait board as those two have been traded. On top of that, Evan Rodriguez was 27 and Jacob Markstrom, who was 25, have both also been taken off my trade board as of yesterday. So very interesting to know there, but some very interesting updates when it comes to my trade board as number 25, 26, 27, and 36. And Markstrom, Lyubushkin, Rodriguez, and Robertson have all been taken off the trade board. So very interesting to note there. Once again, just looking at some interesting things that have been happening for the past little while. Just recently got an update that Gudas has extended. Once again, Dan Vladar signed a 5-year extension with Philadelphia. We've been talking about that the past couple of weeks, so that's not too surprising. Let's look at what some other people are saying. The Sabres have signed Olen Zellweger. It sounds like it's a 3x3 contract. That's a pretty good deal, in my opinion, for Zellweger. Once again, he sort of lost favor in Anaheim, was traded just a couple days ago by the Ducks to the Buffalo Sabres. So I think he's going to fit in really, really well with the Buffalo Sabres as Zellweger extends on a 3x3 contract. I think that's pretty good. Once again, I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below on what your thoughts are on that deal. But Zellweger extends, in Buffalo at 3 times $3 million. So not a bad pickup here for the Buffalo Sabres as they're able to keep one of their young defensemen they just acquired. So very interesting to note there. According to David Pagnotta, in addition to Los Angeles and Tampa, the Flames and the Wild are also teams who are interested in Patrik Laine. Laine is number, I think, 20 on my free agent board, so we'll see where Laine winds up ending up, if he does wind up anywhere today. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we saw the interesting news last night that Zach Werenski vetoed a trade to the Dallas Stars that would have landed the Columbus Blue Jackets package, including Thomas Harley. So very interesting to note there. That was a very interesting thing. I'm surprised Werenski didn't waive his no movement clause to go to the Dallas Stars organization. So I do wonder what's next for Zach Werenski and the Dallas Stars. Like Dallas, to me, in my opinion, with how the moves have gone so far earlier today, I think Dallas is going to be poised for a big regression step next year. Not to say they don't have good players, and once again, I think Sega is going to be healthier next year, but they just lost Bork, they've lost Lyubushkin, they basically have to pay all of their available cap space to Jason Robertson. They're not going to have any sort of money to improve this team, and that defense still does not look overly good. So, I'm not sure if they're going to miss the playoffs or not. I think there's a really good chance they still make it, but I wouldn't be overly shocked if they became like a wild card team next year, if there's teams like Utah, if team like Minnesota, if maybe by some miracle extent a team like Nashville maybe surpasses them, I could see Dallas maybe fall into like a wild card spot. So very interesting to note there. But yeah, Dallas does not able to acquire Werenski. Werenski wants to stay east. Apparently his preferred destination is either Tampa or Toronto. So that's very interesting to note there. When it comes to some other things that seem to be happening right now, Darren Dreger did mention that there is still some interest in Blake Coleman, and the Flames are listening on him. Once again, it's not imminent, but it looks like it could happen, so it's something to keep an eye on going forward in the NHL today. And let's see if there's anything else here. It looks like Vladar signing a 5-year, $5.5 million extension, so that's another big thing that's happening right now, and that seems to be everything. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we are 8 minutes away from the start of free agency. So very interesting to note there. Once again, some very interesting stuff here as we saw some very interesting signings. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's just completely recap what's happened since we last talked in our videos. So, like we said earlier today, we saw 2 trades. Nick Robertson gets traded by the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for a 4th-round pick. The Leafs finally get some draft compensation for Nick Robertson. Robertson gets his fresh start. I think he could be a really solid middle six forward in the Penguins organization. And then the Dallas Stars trade Maverick Bourque and Ilya Lyubushkin to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2027 second and 2028 third-round pick. Then once again, it's a pretty solid pickup here, in my opinion, for the Nashville Predators. as Bork, I think, after he signs an extension as he is an RFA, will wind up being a really solid middle six forward there for the Nashville Predators, and Lyubushkin's still a pretty serviceable third pair D. So a couple of really solid pickups here for Nashville. For Dallas, they didn't want to lose Bork via offer sheet, so they at least able to get something back to get a second round pick from Nashville in next year's draft and a third round pick in 2028. So that's not half bad there for the Preds, but still very interesting to note there. When it comes to signings that have been made, the Boston Bruins signed low-end player Luke Cavallin to a one-year $850,000 deal. The Knights have signed Jonas Rondbjerg, bringing him back on a one-year deal with an AAV of $850,000. Radko Gudas gets a six-year extension with an AAV of $1.5 million to remain in the Panthers organization. The Buffalo Sabres have signed Olen Zellweger at 3 times $3.1 million to remain in the Buffalo Sabres organization. Rasmus Anderson signs a 7-year extension with an AAV of $8.5 million to remain in Vegas. Eetu Luostarinen signs a 8-year extension with an AAV of $5 million to remain in Florida. Byram signs a 6-year extension with an AAV of $12.5 million to remain in Chicago. And Hischier signs a 5-year extension with an AAV of $11.7 million to remain in New Jersey. So very interesting note there. We saw 3 extensions already with Hischier, with Luostarinen, and with Byram, so very interesting to note there. And then once again, number 2 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board, and Rasmus Anderson has been taken off. So very interesting to note there, but those are all of the movements at this current point in time. So we will be getting back to some more very interesting action. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. So like I said, we're going to be with you guys for the next couple of hours, just basically breaking down all of the moves that wind up happening. So once again, if you guys want to look at on the sides here is my end-to-end hockey trade bait board, so you guys can see who I have 1 through 20, and we'll see if any one of these guys do end up getting moved at some point today. We'll see what the extensions look like for some of these players, as there's definitely going to be some more extensions. You can see my top 20 end-to-end hockey free agents on the very top side, and then my top 50 on the bottom side. So I actually have to just really quickly fix that because I have to move Gudas to Florida. So just give me one quick second here, folks, as Gudas was number 49 on my list, signs in Florida. So very interesting to note there, as the Florida Panthers now have Radko Gudas on a new contract. So very interesting to note there. That's all still good. So interesting stuff here. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what we've seen so far. What were your thoughts on the Werenski stuff yesterday, vetoing a trade to the Dallas Stars? What about the trades that we saw earlier today? What do you think about the Bork to Nashville trade? What do you think about the Nick Robertson to Pittsburgh Penguins trade? Love your guys' thoughts on all of that. And then also, what is your thoughts on some of the other interesting things that we've seen from over the past couple of days, once again? So very interesting to know there. What's your thoughts on the Byram extension, the Hischier extension? What's your thoughts on the Luostarinen extension? Do you like the contracts that have been given out to guys like Rasmus Anderson and Olen Zellweger? So very interesting to know there, and I hope you guys are able to continue to leave a chat down below, leave a comment. We'll love your guys' thoughts. And where do you think some of today's top free agents could wind up ending up, and do they get signed today? Or is this some players wanting to sign day 2, day 3, day 4, a couple of days in the future? So we'll have to wait and see on that. But some very interesting updates when it comes to some potential things that we could be seeing here today. Once again, Anderson signs a 7-year extension with AAV of $8.5 million and will stay in the Golden Knights organization. Let's look at some other potential signings here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Yep, that's still all the stuff here. Let's see once again if here. So it seems like Ivan Demidov signing an extension with the Montreal Canadiens. 8 times just over $9 million at 9.125. So not a bad pickup here for the Montreal Canadiens. Once again, another contract extension. $9.125 million, I think, more than most of the Habs players are making. So it's a little bit of a surprising move there, but nice pickup there if that is true, as the Habs are signing Ivan Demidov. So really good stuff there for Montreal, and getting him on a long-term extension was a pretty good piece of work there from GM Kent Hughes. So very interesting to note there. We're going to see some other things here happen. I do think we'll see a couple of trades happen today. If you're just joining us just right now Ivan Demidov has signed an 8-year extension, AV of $9.125 million to remain in the Montreal Canadiens organization. Demidov was a Calder Cup finalist this year, or just a Calder finalist this year, and he was actually pretty dang good for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think he has high upside potential. Like, he's a power play goal scorer. He can hit the puck really, really hard. He's a really solid sniper. So I think $9.25 million, it's a little bit more than I think most other Habs players are making, but it's not a half bad contract there. So love your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below in the chat on what you think of Ivan Demidov's new 8 times $9.125 million contract. So very interesting to know there. Once again, we are just about to begin the start of free agency, so we shall see if there's any players who wind up signing in the very near future. Let's see here, folks. Just give me one quick second. Just looking to see if there's any other big pieces of news yet. So, no, it doesn't seem like that's possible at this point. So, once again, if you're just joining us, I do think we could see some very big trades today. Who could we see moved? I'd love your guys' thoughts down below. Does Dylan Larkin get moved? Once again, it sounds like Steve Yzerman's only going to move him if he gets his deal that he wants. But do we see that a possibility today? After all the Werenski stuff yesterday, do we see Zach Werenski get dealt today? Do we see Vincent Trocheck get dealt by the New York Rangers? Do we see a guy like Darnell Nurse get dealt? Does he finally expand his list, or is he still going to stay put on having to move east? Do we see Connor Hellebuyck get dealt by the Winnipeg Jets, as once again Winnipeg, it seems like, could still move Hellebuyck? Do we see a guy like Blake Coleman or Morgan Riley get moved, even though it sounds like those two are a little bit less likely at this point in time? More about Jordan Binnington in St. Louis. I could see him get moved today for a team who needs some goaltending help. Rickard Rakell, maybe a Brian Russ. Pittsburgh could definitely still try and move some of their vets. What about Alexander Nikishin, who sounds like he's trying to ask for a pretty hefty price tag? I could see him get moved as well at some point today. So I'd love to get your thoughts down below on who you think we could wind up seeing get moved. As I do think there's a very likely chance we could see some players get moved here today. So very interesting to note there. But once again, some very interesting updates from over the past little while, as Demidov just signed an 8-year extension with an AAV of $9.125 million. So very interesting to note there. And once again, the Florida Panthers signed another long-term contract for a player who is very, very old, and Radko Gudas. So very interesting to know there. So he gets a 6-year extension with AAV of $1.5 million. So very interesting to know there. We'll put some of these other signings here in the chat. So Radko Gudas in Florida on a 6 times $1.5 million deal. So very interesting to note there. Let's see there. And then it was also Rasmus Anderson in Vegas on a what was it? 7 times 8.5. So very interesting to know there. I don't overly like the Anderson contract. He didn't fit in overly well in Vegas, and he's making more than every other Vegas Golden Knights defender. So I don't know if that's a right move there for the Golden Knights. Maybe it was just a little bit of hiccups with his first half season in Vegas. Maybe his first full season in Vegas will be a little bit different, but I was expecting Anderson to probably hit the open market because I didn't think Vegas should sign him. And if they did, I was hoping they would sign him on like a very lower AAV deal, and that wasn't the case. So very interesting note there. But Anderson, who was number 2 on Man-to-End Hockey free agent board, is gone, as is Radko Gudas, who was number 49. So very interesting to note there where those two do wind up extending. So very interesting note there, and I'd love to get your thoughts down in the chat. Once again, we do have a couple more things coming out in the very near future. Let's see if there's any other big pieces of news here. Bruce Garrioch recently said that the Sens and Ersson are close on a contract, so that could be very interesting. Remember, the Sens did trade a 5th-round pick at the draft for the rights to Sammy Ersson and didn't qualify him a couple days ago, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Once again, not a whole bunch of other things here, so we'll look at some of the big players here on the NHL free agent board that I have up here, and see. I'll love your guys' thoughts on where you think some of these guys could go. So the number 1 player on my end-to-end hockey free agent board is actually Jacob Trouba. I think with contract needs, with where he can play, with his age and things like that, what the season he's coming off, I think Trouba of this free agent class is probably the best player. So very interesting to know there. I do think that Trouba's probably going to get a pretty good extension. I could see him get like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 year deal at around like the $6 to $7 million AAV mark. I think he's probably the best free agent here on the board. So I'd love to get your thoughts on where you think he could wind up heading. On top of that, once again, number 2 on my board, Rasmus Anderson. He just signed, so he's not going anywhere. Number 3 on my free agent board is John Carlson. Now, Carlson is a pretty dang good veteran. Once again, it sounds like he's going to sign a 2 to 3 year deal at around the $9 to $10 million AAV mark, and it sounds like he wants to stay out east. So I wonder about teams like maybe Columbus, Philadelphia, Washington, Carolina had his signing rights, but they weren't able to come to terms on an extension. Tampa's had some interest. So I do wonder who could wind up going after a guy like John Carlson today. At number 4, we have Mason Marchment. Now, Marchment's a guy who's also been drawing a lot of interest recently. It seems like he has potentially a lot of suitors. He's a really solid middle six forward, coming off of a 4 year deal, I think it was, with an AAV of $4.5 million. So I do think there's a very likely shot Marchment gets a longer term extension. I could see him get like a 3 to 5 year deal at around like the $5 to $6 million AAV mark. He's a little bit more of a power forward type player, but he can put up some points and is really solid. So I could see Marchment go out and get some really solid payday today. On top of that, we have Patrick Kane at number 5 on our list. Now, he's once again up there in age, so I only expect him to get like a 2 to 3 year deal. But he's a guy who I think just put up 50 points this past year with the Detroit Red Wings, and he's still a pretty solid point contributor. So I could see him get like a 2 to 3 year deal around like the $4 to $5 million AAV mark, and I think he could probably stay in another team's organization. Does he go back to Buffalo, where I think his hometown team is? Does he go to Chicago, reunite with the Blackhawks? Is there a couple of other teams out there who need some really solid veteran experience and some bottom top six help that could go after Patrick Kane? We'll have to wait and see. But those are my top 5 on the Into and Hockey free agent board. As Trouba's number 1, Anderson, who's now in Vegas, is number 2. Number 3 is Carlson. Number 4 is Marchment, and number 5 is Kane. And we'll touch on the next 5 in a minute, but we're going to actually go over here and see if there's any more updated pieces of news. So very interesting to know there. Jonathan Drouin clears waivers, so Drouin's now an UFA. Remember, Drouin was placed as a bio candidate last night. So very interesting to know there. Once again, just looking at some of these other interesting things here. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. I just want to sort of see right now if we have any sort of other updates. Nothing from them. Let's see here. Once again, the cap is $9.15 million on Demidov, so very interesting to know there. But Demidov signs a long-term extension, so good to see that. Once again, Demidov was able to sign a long-term extension there, so very interesting to know there. According to David Pagnotta, there are several teams who have interest in UFA defenseman Mario Ferraro, who is actually on my end-to-end hockey trade free agent board as well. And that includes the Rangers, the Predators, the Maple Leafs, the Oilers, the Kings, and a couple of other teams. And it sounds like some teams might need to make some moves before they wind up signing Mario Ferraro. So Ferraro is going to be a very interesting name to keep an eye on. And once again, we'll touch on him in a second. But I think this could be a really solid pickup there for a lot of teams. I think Ferraro is probably one of the better defensemen here on the free agent market. So very interesting to know there. But it sounds like there's multiple teams who have some serious interest in Mario Ferraro. According to Frank Saravalli, Eric Hall is signing with the Los Angeles Kings. So we'll see where that winds up heading. Once again, I don't know the extension money, but we shall see. I'm not sure if I put Hall on my trade board or not. Just give me one quick second here. I just got to double check this. Did I put Holla on my free agent board? I don't think I did. No, it doesn't look like I did put Holla on the trade board. So once again, Holla was, I think, a guy who just missed out on the cut for making it on my free agent board. But still, very interesting note there. Holla is a guy who can be a really solid third liner. He's more of a center, but he can play on the wing if need be. I think he'd be a really solid addition there for a number of different teams, but it seems like Los Angeles has got him. I would expect like a 2 to 4 year deal, probably upwards of $5 million would be my guess with some of the contracts we've been seeing given out. So that's my guess, a 2 to 4 year deal upwards of $5 million for Eric Holla to sign in Los Angeles. And I hope this isn't the Kings' only move because once again, they lost Andrei Kopitar this offseason to retirement. So If they want to try and add Hall, that's great, but not as their second line center. I think as a third line center, he'd be great. But if they're signing Hall to basically replace Kopitar, I think they're going to be in some very, very bad problems. So very interesting note there, but it does sound like, according to Frank Saravalli, Eric Halla is heading to the Los Angeles Kings. So very interesting to know there. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see what winds up happening here. Once again, just looking for some of the other very big, interesting pieces of news. Nothing at this current point in time. So, once again, we'll just really quickly recap some of the stuff that's happened earlier today. And I'd love to get your thoughts in the chat below. So, once again, earlier today we saw two trades happen, one in the Dallas Stars organization, one in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. As the Stars move Maverick Bourque, who was a very likely offer sheet candidate, and number 26 on my Into Hockey trade bait board, Ilya Lyubushkin, to the Nashville Predators in exchange for the Preds' 2027 second round pick and the Golden Knights' 2028 third round pick. An interesting deal for both sides. It hurts to lose Bourque for the Dallas Stars, but they're never going to be able to pay him when they're trying to pay Jason Robertson. So they lose Bourque. They also lose Leo Bushkin, who was a pretty serviceable third pair defenseman, but once again, he's making $2.75 million, just too much money right now for the Dallas Stars. So they're both going to be very serviceable players for the Preds. I think Leo Bushkin could be a really solid third pair guy for Nashville going forward. And Borg, I think he's going to sign a longer term deal because he is on RFA, and I'll probably sign in the middle six, and I think will be a really solid pickup there for the for the National Predators. And then, of course, Dallas gets at least some draft compensation. Vegas Golden Knights third round pick 2 years down the road, and then Preds second round pick in next year's draft. So it will be interesting to see if Dallas does utilize those picks and trades them in the future dates. But very interesting to note there that the Dallas Stars have traded Maverick Bourque, and then, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs have finally dealt Nick Robertson. After years of speculation, he gets dealt, and he goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins to reunite with Kyle Dubas, as Dubas, who was the one who drafted him, is now Pittsburgh's GM, so he acquires Nick Robertson for a fourth-round pick. Once again, Leafs finally get Robertson his first start, so at least they get a fourth-round pick in return, and for the Penguins, it's another young player that can really help them in their middle six, and I think Robertson will probably get like a 2 to 3 year deal, like the $2 to $3 million AAV mark. So very interesting out there, but not a bad pickup here from the Toronto Maple Leafs as they do sign Nick Robertson, as they do trade Nick Robertson to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then when it comes to some other very interesting moves that have happened so far, Luke Kapanen has signed a 1 year deal in Boston. Once again, it's not an overly big contract, and he's a lower end player. We also saw Owen Zellweger sign a 3 year extension with an AAV of $3.1 million. So the RFA does stay in Buffalo. Another RFA who is staying in their system is, well, not RFA, but a UFA staying with the team who just acquired signing rates a couple days ago is Radko Gudas, who signs a 6 year extension with an AV of $1.5 million to remain in Florida. Jonas Romberg signs a 1 year league minimum deal in Vegas to stay in the Golden Knights organization. And then Rasmus Anderson has signed an extension in Vegas. 7 years, $8.5 million, one of the top UFAs off the market, and the Golden Knights are able to keep him, so that was really good stuff there. And then we've seen 5 contract extensions that should have been again for the next year. So Demidov signs an 8 year extension with an AV of $9.125 million. Hischier signs a 5 year extension with an AV of $11.7 million. Byram signs a 6 year extension with an AV of $12.5 million. Vladar signs a 5 year extension AV of $5.5 million. And Louis Strinen gets an 8 year extension with an AV of $5 million. So Louis Strinen is going to be able to stay in the middle six long term for Florida. Byram now becomes the highest paid defenseman as the number 1 defender for the Hawks moving forward. Nico Hischier is going to be with the Devils as their captain for the foreseeable future, now signing a 5 year extension. Vladar will be the goalie, the go-to goalie, the starter for the Philadelphia Flyers going forward. And Ivan Demidov is going to be with the Montreal Canadiens for a long period of time. So some very interesting extensions from our past couple of hours, as we saw guys like Demidov extend and things like that. The Halla deal is 2 years times $3.5 million. Okay, so that's actually a pretty good deal in my opinion for the Kings. Halla can be a serviceable third-line center in the Kings organization, and I really do like this deal for Los Angeles. So very interesting to note there. It seems like Tyson Forrester was just extended too by Philadelphia Flyers, 8 times $7 million. So that's a little bit of a surprising one. I was not expecting a Forrester extension, but we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening here. Once again, let's see what else is being talked about here. Not very much. It sounded like, according to Bruce Garrioch earlier on in the day, Ottawa had some interest in Rangers defenseman Will Borgen. I'm a little bit skeptical for the Senators to try and sign Borgen because he has been a pretty decent defender over the past couple of years, but not overly fantastic for the New York Rangers, and that contract's not overly good. So I do wonder what we could see there, but it does sound like Ottawa has some interest in Ottawa does have some interest in Will Borgen, so very interesting to note there. Once again, we'll just quickly go through 6 through 10 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board, which you guys can see above, which is just scrolling through right now. So number 6 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board is, oh crap, who did I put on number 6? Number 6 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board, which was Anthony Mantha. Now, Mantha's coming off a season in Pittsburgh where he was fantastic. He put up 33 goals and 66 points in just over 80 games. He signed a one-year deal last year in Pittsburgh just to sort of help try and rejuvenate his career, and he was able to do that. So once again, Mantha is not overly old, but he's not young either. So I expect like a 5 to 6 year deal for Mantha, probably upwards of $6 million would be my guess. And I think there will be some teams out there who need some middle six help who could use a power forward like Mantha, who would definitely try and give him a contract. You got Sergei Bobrovsky at number 7, the Panthers Cup winning goaltender from the last few years. He winds up hitting free agency with Panthers now going with a Markstrom-Schmid tandem. I could see some teams have some interest in Bobrovsky. He's a really solid starter. Now, I think his ask of like 6 years, upwards of $42 million combined, was absurd from the Florida Panthers. I expect him to probably sign like a 3, maybe a 4-year deal with a new team with maybe like a $4 to $5 million AAV. Once again, he is getting up there in age, but he's still a pretty solid starter. So I do expect a couple of teams to have some interest in him. Number 8 is Matt Zuccarello. He is not going to be back with the Minnesota Wild. Or actually, number 8 is Mario Ferraro. Mario Ferraro is a pretty solid defenseman for the San Jose Sharks this past couple of years. More of a defensive-minded guy. He kind of has some offensive upside, but it sounds like he is more of a defensive-minded guy. So a really solid pickup here for a lot of different teams. There's a lot of interest in him. He's a left-shot defenseman, can play second pair minutes. And I do think there will be some teams out there who have some interest. I think he gets probably like a 3 or 5 year deal at upwards of $5 million. So I do think that's a very likely possibility. Number 9 on my end-to-end hockey trade bait list is Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello has been a really solid player for the Minnesota Wild over the past number of seasons. Like, I think he's been in Minnesota like 7, 8 years, something like that. Like, he's been in Minnesota for a while, but the Wild weren't able to come to terms with an extension for him. So he hits free agency. He is up there in age at 38 years old, so I'd only expect like a 2 to 3 year deal for him. But I think you could probably still get like $4 to $5 million on the open market. So I think there'd be a couple of teams out there who would have some interest in acquiring a guy like Matt Zuccarello, even though he's a little bit older. And number 10 on my end-to-end hockey trade bait board is Stuart Skinner. Once again, probably I think the second best goaltender in this year's class. I think Skinner could be a really solid addition for a lot of teams as like a pretty decent 1A, maybe starter goaltender. Teams like Edmonton, maybe Carolina to some extent. I could see Columbus have some interest in him too. Maybe Vegas as a backup. I could see some teams have some serious interest in Stuart Skinner. Once again, I think he probably gets like a 3 to 4 year deal, probably around $3 to $4 million AAV. That will at least be my guess, but those are 6 through 10 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board, as that is Mantha, that is Bobrovsky, that is Ferraro, Zuccarello, and Skinner. So those are the next 5 players on my end-to-end hockey free agent board. And once again, we'll touch on 11 through 15 in just the next couple of minutes. I'll let you guys thoughts on where you think those guys could go down in the chat below. So once again, very interesting stuff to note there, and we'll see where those guys do wind up going. Once again, there's a pretty weak free agent class. So I don't expect too many fireworks here today. Maybe we do see some, but once again, we've seen mostly extensions so far today. We have seen a couple of signings, but interesting stuff there. Let's see. Freeman does announce the extension. Okay, so Tyson Forster has signed an 8-year extension in the Philadelphia Flyers organization with an AAV of $7 million. Once again, I think that's a pretty solid pickup there for the Flyers. I think it's a little bit of an overpayment. I think Forster's maybe like a $6 million guy, and I'm not overly fond of the term, but he is a younger defenseman forward, and I do think he could work out really well with the Philadelphia Flyers. So very interesting note there, but Forster has signed a extension. On top of that, RFA defenseman Mackie Skimoskevich has extended in the in the Seattle Kraken organization a couple of weeks after acquiring him from the Florida Panthers. Skimoskevich gets a 3-year extension, AAV of $3.85 million. I think that's a pretty good piece of work there for the Kraken. I was worried he'll get $4 to $5 million, so getting him under 4, I think is a pretty good deal there for the Seattle Kraken. And Mackie Skimoskevich has signed a 3-year extension to stay in Seattle. So very interesting to note there. We'll see what winds up happening here, but very interesting stuff here as it sounds like Tyson Forster signing an extension. So we'll see what winds up happening here. Hold on a sec, guys. I just thought that I saw the thing glitch out for a second. Just let me double check that I'm still on. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Hold on a minute here. Let me just double check. And it does look like we still are on. So just give me one quick second here to just make sure that we're not off. So just give me one quick second here, folks. And let's see. Yeah, okay, so it looks like we're still on. Okay, so that's good. So we're still here. Once again, some really good stuff here so far as we were able to get some more interesting things done. So very interesting to know there. Once again, I do appreciate all of you guys for tuning into today's video. So we have some very interesting things here to talk about. Once again, we're going to be doing a couple more videos, update videos over the next couple of days. I hope you guys are able to tune in for those ones. So very interesting to note there. But once again, we're just waiting for a couple more moves here. Hold on, I'll put some more things in the chat down below. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Signs a 8x7 extension in Philly. Extension in Philly. So very interesting to note there. And then Demidov signs a 8x9.13 extension in Montreal. So very interesting to note there, as those are some very interesting signings from our past little while. Some more extensions have come through. So very interesting signings here so far from over the past couple of days. As earlier today, we saw some very interesting extension updates. Once again, we'll just run through all the signings here really quickly. So once again, there we are. Forster signs an 8x7 extension, and Demidov signs an 8x9.13 extension in Montreal. So very interesting to note there. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let me just double check and make sure I'm able to get everything going here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Once again, you guys are not missing a thing. We're just waiting here. The feed that I'm watching here is in a commercial break. Once again, I'll double check through all of the other things here on Twitter and just double check that there's nothing else that is really looking at right now. Once again, you guys can see my top 20 end-to-end hockey trade bait players, free agent players there. So very interesting to note there. Hold on a minute here, folks. So let's go over and see if we can figure out exactly what ends up happening. Let's see. It sounds like Trevor Van Riemsdyk is heading to the Pittsburgh Penguins, according to Chris Johnston. So very interesting note there, but it sounds like that's happening. Sounds like Colton Sissons is going to the Toronto Maple Leafs and Ross Johnston to the St. Louis Blues. So a couple of lower-end players being dealt there. Let's see here. Let's see exactly what else is happening here. Once again, according to a couple more sources here, it sounds like there's some more extensions happening. So once again, we'll let you guys know what's happening here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see what else is happening. So far there have been 13 contracts signed today. Carter Mazur has signed back in Detroit on a 2-year extension with an AAV of $875,000. Like we said, Sam Moskowitz signed a 3-year extension, $3.85 million, and Hall has signed a 2-year extension, $3.5 million. So very interesting note there. Mazur is actually on my end-to-end hockey free agent board. Let's exactly see where I put him. I think it was in the lower half of the free agent board. Let's see. Mazur was number 37. So he is going to stay in the Detroit organization as the Red Wings are able to extend him. So very interesting to note there. That is now 3 players now off of my free agent boards. Mazur is able to stay in Detroit. So very interesting to note there. Once again, I do expect us to see some interesting moves here. Do we see an offer sheet happen later tonight? That's a possibility. Once again, let's see exactly how everything else is happening. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here. So it sounds like Giroux might be going to Philadelphia. It sounds like Lauzon's extended with Anderson in Vegas, so I don't know what Vegas is planning on doing to replace Pavel Dorofeev, because after the Lauzon extension last night and Anderson extension this morning, Vegas does not have very much cap space. So once again, very interesting stuff here. Once again, if you guys can see on the top, my top 10 players on the free agent board are Trouba, Anderson, Carlson, Marchment, Kane, and then follow that up. It is Mantha, Bobrovsky, Ferraro, Zuccarello, and Skinner. So those are my top 10 players on my free agent board. Will be very interesting to see where those guys wind up going. I'd love your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below, in the chat below. Once again, I do appreciate all of you guys for tuning in for tonight's video. I'll probably be with you guys here for just a little over an hour, and then I'll sign off because I do have some things to do, and this does seem like it's going to be a pretty slow day when it comes to free agency, but maybe we do see some fireworks, and of course I will have videos maybe later tonight. We'll see what ends up happening here, but definitely tomorrow and Friday talking about some of the updates that have been happening for the past little while. So we'll definitely be touching on that in the next little bit. It sounds like Leafs Decisions are talking, so it's not a done deal yet. Zuccarello is signing in the Los Angeles organization worth $1 million plus in signing bonuses. So it sounds like the Kings are going to get Matt Zuccarello. So the Kings are actually getting some pretty solid players here in free agency, as they already got Eric Kalla, and now they're getting Zuccarello. By the looks of things, I want to double check that that is true, and then we'll double check. And then we'll definitely update the trade boards. It looks like Zuccarello is heading to Los Angeles. So very interesting to know there. If this is true, and that's a $1 million plus signing bonus contract, I think this is a really good pickup here for the Kings. Zuccarello is a guy who can play in the middle six, can sort of really help out the Kings in a lot of different aspects, and I do think could be a really solid pickup here for the Los Angeles Kings. So once again, we'll have to double check and make sure that that is the extension, but it sounds like the Kings are going to be getting Mats Zuccarello. Sounds like a 1-year deal, so very interesting to know there. It sounds like Zuccarello is going to Los Angeles, so once again, Decisions and Ross Johnston are on Philadelphia's radar, according to Anthony DeMarco, so very interesting to know there. So let's see. Very, very interesting to see what else winds up happening today. Apparently, according to Darren Dreger, Mason Marchment's probably going to go out west. So Marchment is number 4 man to Kentucky trade boards, free agent board. So we'll see what ends up happening here. So it'll be very interesting to see what ends up happening. According to Chris Johnson, Trevor Van Riemsdyk signing in the Penguins organization. So that's pretty dang good there for the Penguins if they're going to be able to get Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I do wonder if they wind up moving someone, because after the Korzak addition, and if they do sign Van Riemsdyk, they have way too many right shot defensemen. So do we see an Erik Carlson trade at some point today? I do wonder about that. It'll be very interesting to see what else winds up signing here. Let's see here. Once again, the Hall deal's been confirmed. The Sam Moskowitz deal's been confirmed. It sounds like Erik Gustafsson is signing with the Kings, as well as Matt Zuccarello. So the Kings are getting a couple of really solid players here for agency. I'm not sure what the Gustafsson contract could look like, but he's a pretty decent puck-moving defenseman who can play third-pair minutes, so that's not a bad pickup here if the Kings do end up finalizing that deal. It sounds like Carlson is exploring other options than Carolina, who's had signing rights from over the past couple of days. According to recent reports, Philadelphia and Tampa are in the mix. Maybe according to Greg Wyshynski, Schwartz could be signing in Colorado, so that could be very interesting there. Freeman's last night speculated that Quinn Hughes could get a 3-year extension around the 16, 17, or $18 million AAV mark, which would be quite surprising there for the Minnesota Wild. So very interesting note there. Yeah, so Demidov is going to come in just a hair under Noah Dobson as the second highest paid defenseman in the Habs organization. That's going to be followed up by Lane Hudson, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slavkovsky. All of them are signed for under $9.5 million. So once again, the Habs have really done well to manage their cap, and they're looking pretty good. So very interesting to know there. We'll see what else winds up coming to fruition here. No other updates have been coming here so far when it comes to some signing extensions. So once again, we did see a couple of extensions wind up happening today. So far, we saw Itu Luostarinen sign an extension in Florida. We saw Dan Vladar an extension in Philadelphia. Tyson Forrester is basically signing an extension in Philadelphia. Heischer signed an extension in New Jersey. Chicago signed Byram to an extension, and Demidov signed a long-term extension in Montreal. So a couple of players who are scheduled for UFA or RFA status next year are already getting locked up on new extensions. So very interesting to know there, but that is not half bad there for a whole bunch of these different teams. So we shall see if anything else winds up happening. We saw 2 trades earlier today as Nick Robertson is now in Pittsburgh, reuniting with Kyle Dubas as the Penguins acquire him for a 4th-round pick. And then Maverick Bourque, who was a very likely offer sheet candidate, someone the Dallas Stars just cannot pay, and Ilya Lyubushkin were traded by the Dallas Stars to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2nd-round pick in 2027 and a 3rd-round pick in 2028. Nice to see you, Marshall. It's good to see you in the chat. Once again, if you're just joining us here, we have seen a handful of things happen earlier today. Mostly has been extensions for players who have either UFAs or RFAs for next year. So once again, Byram has signed a 6-year extension in Chicago, AAV of $12.5 million. Heischer has signed a 5-year extension in Jersey with AAV of $11.7 million. Demidov has signed an 8-year extension with AAV of $9.125 million. On top of that, Vladar signed a 5-year extension, $5.5 million AAV. On top of that, Luostarinen signs an 8-year extension with the AAV of $5 million in the Florida Panthers organization. And then just recently, Forrester signed an 8-year extension with the AAV of $7 million in the Philadelphia Flyers organization. So we've seen a lot of very interesting extensions over the past while. It does sound like the Zuccarello deal is confirmed. So it's very interesting to know there. It sounds like the Red Wings and the Kings both have some serious interest in Kasperi Kapanen. So hold on a minute here, folks. I'm just going to try and update the Zuccarello signing. So just give me one quick second here as I'll put Zuccarello on the Los Angeles Kings. So very interesting to note there. Once again, Zuccarello is number 9 on my end-to-end hockey free agent board, as you guys can see above. So just let me really quickly put this in here, and then we will go back to some of the signings. But I just really quickly want to try and put this in here. So it sounds like Zuccarello is signing a extension, which is very fantastic stuff there for the Kings. 1 times 1 million, so not a bad pickup there for Los Angeles, as they are going to get a pretty solid player here in Matt Zuccarello. Once again, it sounds like they're also getting Eric Gustafsson, which is not a half bad pickup there for the Los Angeles Kings. Puck moving defenseman, 3rd pair guy. Not sure what the term is on that deal, but it does seem like he is going to be signing an extension with the Los Angeles Kings. So very interesting to note there. And then on top of that, we do have a couple of other very interesting pieces of news here. So that seems like that's good. So I'm sorry if my thing buffers a little bit. We do have a storm outside right now, so I do apologize if my screen does buffer a tiny bit. But we are going to try our best to do this here. So hold on a minute here, folks. Let me just try and move this here. That should be good. So good stuff here. Once again, I'm just going to switch Zuccarello in here. So let me try and switch this up a little bit here. Hold on a minute here, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see if I can just switch this up here. Hold on a minute here, folks. I'm just going to try and put this in here. Okay. And then move him up. Let's see. I just double check here. Just give me one quick second here, folks. I'm just going to try and work out the Zuccarello stuff. So once again, we are going to be getting some very interesting signings for the next little bit. So it will be interesting to see who winds up going to. It will be interesting to see who ends up going here. Let's see. Once again, I do appreciate all of you guys for your support, and I thank you all for joining tonight's live stream. So I really do appreciate it. We're going to have some very interesting updates from over the next little bit. So let's see here if I can just see where I put Zuccarello. So just give me one quick second here, folks. Hold on a minute here. I'm just going to try and fix all this stuff up. Let's see. So this one should be up here. Let me just double check and make sure I got in the right spot, and then we should be good to go. So just give me one quick second here, folks. Once again, we are still seeing some signings from our past little while. Let's see. Did I put Zuccarello in the right spot? I don't think so. Let's see. 10. Once again, we do have some very interesting signings that have happened over the past little while. So very interesting to note there. Okay, so it sounds like Cole Smith is going to the Chicago Blackhawks on a 3-year contract with the AV of $3 million. So not a bad pickup here for the Chicago Blackhawks. Cole Smith has been actually a pretty decent fourth liner, especially last year with the Vegas Golden Knights. So very interesting to note there, as that seems to be all okay. So very interesting to note there, but Cole Smith is going to the Chicago Blackhawks, according to Frank Seravalli, on a 3-year extension with an AV of $3 million. So very interesting to note there, and I do think that's going to be a pretty solid deal there. 2 times $2.2 million for Sammy Urson in Ottawa. So that's an interesting one there for the Ottawa Senators. I was not expecting Ottawa to wind up going there. It sounds like Marchman's going to San Jose, 5 years at around $7 million. So that's very interesting to note there. So it sounds like Marchman's going to be there. Let's see here if there's any other interesting things. So once again, Zuccarello signs a 1-year extension in Los Angeles. Let's just really quickly recap some of the really interesting signs that just went down. Let's see if there's any updates here. There's a couple. Just give me one quick second here, folks. So Urson's is official. It's 2 years at $2.2 million. So I'm guessing the Sens view Urson as the backup. I'm a little bit shocked about that because I did think that Urson was probably going to be maybe the third stringer. So I'm a little bit surprised that Urson signs that sort of a contract. But 2 years, $2.2 million if the Ottawa Senators are able to bring back Sammy Urson. So very interesting to know there. But Urson is going to be probably Ottawa's backup for the upcoming season. He's actually making more money than Sebastian Costa. So don't know how I feel about that one as a Senators fan, but at least they do get a decent backup in Urson. But I was hoping they would get someone a little bit more established. On top of that, Cole Smith 3x3 deal in the Chicago Blackhawks organization. I love this deal for the Hawks. Once again, they could use some more bottom six help. They could probably use a top six scorer as well. But at least sounds like Cole Smith is going to be signing with Chicago. So they could use some more grit and physicality in the bottom six. 3x3 for a decent bottom six forward, I don't think is half bad. So very interesting note there. But those are 2 more extensions that have happened recently. As Cole Smith has signed a 3x3 contract in Chicago, and Urson 2 times 2.2 in Ottawa. So very interesting to note there. But those are the signings from over the past little while. Do we see an offer sheet later today? If so, could there be a team out there who offer sheets a player who's currently RFA? We saw probably the most likely candidate in Maverick Bourque just get traded earlier today. So if it's not Bourque, then who else do you think could wind up being signed? We'll see what winds up happening here. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Trying to see. Oh, James Schwartz is signed in Colorado. Okay, hold on a minute here, folks. So it seems like Schwartz is a deal that is done, 3 times 3.25 in Colorado. So once again, the Avalanche are able to add a solid third line winger and a guy like James Schwartz. So it seems like that is a done deal. And it seems like that's probably, 3 times 3.25 according to Darren Dreger. So interesting to note there as the Avalanche are able to sign James Schwartz. So very interesting to note there. So it'll be very interesting to see what ends up happening. On top of that, Darren Dreger believes Nikishin's next destination will likely be in the Western Conference. Now, Nikishin's been a really interesting piece. He's been mentioned a whole bunch by a whole bunch of different sources that the Carolina Hurricanes will try and trade Nikishin because they don't want to pay him what he's asking for. I wonder for the Kishin about Anaheim or San Jose because both those teams could definitely use some more defensemen. They could use some more younger guys who are already established at the NHL level. I do wonder about San Jose or Anaheim trying to pull off a deal to try and acquire Alex Nikishin because we haven't heard about Anaheim and San Jose wanting a guy like Darnell Nurse, but it seems like Darnell Nurse does not want to waive his no trade clause to go to California for some reason. So it seems like he is not going to be going to California. So you wonder about one of those two teams. Once again, Anaheim just lost Truba, Carlson, and Gudas, and the Sharks just lost a whole bunch of their UFAs as well. So they're both really bleak on the defensive core with both their teams. Like I think Anaheim has Mitnyakov, I think they have Lacombe, and I think they have Moore and Hines, but that's the only guys who are currently on their team. And the Sharks have Kesselring, and they have Muki Amadulin, and they have Dickinson, and they have Orlov, but beyond that, they don't really have a whole bunch. So like I do expect both those teams to definitely have some serious interest in maybe acquiring a defenseman at some point today. So it will be very interesting to know there. According to Ryan Rishaug, there's been no dialogue between the Canucks and the Brusques camp about waiving his no trade as free agency approaches. So for now, it looks like the Brusque is staying. So interesting to note there, the Brusque is number I think 11. 11 on my end-to-end hockey free trade board. So that's very interesting to note there. So it's very interesting out there. Once again, seems like the Los Angeles Kings are basically building the New York Rangers as they added Panarin. They've now added Zuccarello. They've added Gustafsson, so a couple of former Rangers, all going to the Los Angeles Kings. So very interesting to note there. Will be very interesting to see which other guys do end up getting extended. Let's see, Schwartz was number 18 on my end-to-end hockey list. So let me just move him to Colorado. I'll be very interested to see who else winds up going. Do we see a big trade today? Could it be with one of the other guys that has been mentioned on my end-to-end hockey free trade board? Do we see a guy like Morgan Riley get dealt? Do you guys think there's a possibility we could see a Toronto Maple Leafs move Morgan Riley? Do we see the Vincent Trocheck trade? Do we see Darnell Nurse? Is he willing to sort of is Darnell Nurse going to be willing to waive his no trade clause to go to a California team? Because it seems like if he's not going to a California team, it's very unlikely that he does wind up getting dealt today. So it will be very interesting to see what winds up happening there, but it does seem like that's a possibility that we could see. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Just give me one quick second here, folks, so I can sort of get the Jaden Schwartz extension under contract here. So let's see. That looks all good. So very interesting to note there. So once again, I'll update that in just a second. I will see if there's any sort of other big pieces of news that's happening right now. So let's see here. Just give me one quick second here, folks. According to several sources, Arvidsson is signing with the Detroit Red Wings. So the Red Wings are going to be getting Vic Arvidsson, so that's very interesting to note there. Once again, it sounds like Zuccarello 1x1. So very interesting to know there. It sounds like Marshall's going to be signing in San Jose. That is not official yet, but it does sound like San Jose is going to be going after the fourth best free agent here in Mason Marchment. So very interesting to note there is that's another one that sounds like it's going to get done in the very near future. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let me get the Schwartz extension here. So that's good. So let me put that in the video. So that should be pretty good. I do appreciate all of you guys for your support. I thank you for staying with us during this live stream. We'll be with you guys for just over another hour here to touch on some more things that wind up happening. Once again, it'll be very interesting to see how everything winds up playing out for the Detroit Red Wings after signing Arvidsson. Do they want to trade Dylan Larkin? Is Alex DeBrincat traded? Those two guys are both in the top 20 of my end-to-end hockey trade board, so it will be very interesting. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just going to add Zuccarello's updated stat card here. So that should be good. And then we'll move that down here. And then we'll probably move this up a couple spots. We'll see if that's okay. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we are looking at a couple of other interesting pieces of news here. Once again, sounds like Zuccarello 1 times $1 million, Eric Hall 2 times 3.6, and Gustafson on a 1 year contract. I like this deal for the Kings. Once again, they're getting a lot of short term deals. Last year, they gave a lot of long term extensions, like CC, like Dumoulin, like Armia to some extent, but they didn't give a whole bunch of short term contracts. So I really do like these moves here so far from the LA Kings. So really good stuff there. Let's see here. So yeah, this is the one that I need to go. Delete that one. Okay, so the updated free agent board now has 3 players off as Schwartz is in Colorado, Anderson stays in Vegas, and Los Angeles has brought in Matt Zuccarello. So very interesting note there. So it sounds like Sessions is going to go to Toronto. The Flyers are among teams who could land Claude Giroux. Demidov winds up signing in Montreal. So it'll be very interesting to note what winds up happening here. Once again, an 8 times $5 million extension for 8 times $5 million extension for Louis Torrenius. Really good stuff there. Once again, it sounds like Corey Perry is signing with the Kings again. So it seems like Perry's going back to Los Angeles. So I love these really good value adds here from Los Angeles. Probably will be a 1 year deal. That'll be my guess. But it does sound like Corey Perry is going to be going back there to the Los Angeles Kings organization. Once again, it sounds like Marchment's going to sign with San Jose. Patrick Kane, haven't heard anything about him. Same thing with Mantha, Bobrovsky, Zuccarello signed to Los Angeles. So hold on a minute here, folks. Just got to change this around. Ferraro. Once again, haven't heard very much about Ferraro either, but we did hear that Matt Zuccarello is going to the Los Angeles Kings. So that is good news there for Zuccarello. He has gotten his new home. So very interesting out there. I think Zuccarello could work out really well in the Los Angeles Kings organization. Once again, haven't heard much about Skinner, Tarasenko, Lee, Oleksiak, Tolvanen, Shea, Jenner. Once again, Michelli. Schwartz just signed in Colorado, so that one's done as Colorado's gotten Schwartz. I haven't heard much about Kapanen, Laine, Kuzmenko, Stanley, Roslovic, Mikheyev, Ingram, Claude Giroux. Once again, we heard a little bit about him. It sounds like Pittsburgh signed TVR, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, so it sounds like Van Riemsdyk is saying to Pittsburgh. Arvidsson, it sounds like, is going to Detroit, so that's another guy who ends up getting signed. Anderson, haven't heard much about. Same thing with VL, sounds like Ovechkin decision will come at a later date. Bjorkstrand, haven't heard much about. Same thing with Beecher, Cotter, Lomberg, Nyquist, Mazur, Peak. Actually, Mazur signed. So Peak, Hainola, Lawton, Kerfoot, Bunting, Riley Smith, Shabanov, Tarasov, Brisson, James Van Riemsdyk, Grushnikov, Gus obviously signed in Florida, and Blueger. So that's sort of where we are right now. You guys can see in the little thing below where everyone is right now. So very interesting note there. We'll love you guys' thoughts down in the chat below on what some of your biggest surprises have been so far, extension-wise and things like that. So very interesting to note there. Once again, Schwartz has just signed 3 times 3.25, so not a bad pickup there in my opinion for the Colorado Avalanche as they're able to keep Schwartz. According to the fourth period, it sounds like Shishins is going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It sounds like Corey Perry is going to the Los Angeles Kings. So very interesting to note there. Once again, the Los Angeles Kings are signing a whole bunch of players to like 1-2 year deals. Very, very small. So very interesting to note there. It'll be very interesting to see what ends up happening here. Once again, Marchment is a little bit of an overpayment, in my opinion, if he does sign an 8 times $7 million deal with the San Jose Sharks. So very interesting note there, but it does seem like Mason Marchment is going to be going to San Jose. Once again, I like the addition here for the San Jose Sharks. I just think it's a little bit too overpriced. So very interesting to note there. Honestly, it'll be very interesting to see where some of these bigger guys go. And do we see some of these trades? Do you think there's anyone in the middle of 20 here that you think there's a very likely chance to get moved in my end-to-end hockey trade bait board? Could we see Larkin, Werenski, Hellebuck? What about Riley, Coleman? Do we see DeBrusk, Wright, Tippett, O'Reilly, Levi? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on if you think we see some of these deals. Ian Cole signed an extension in the Chicago Blackhawks organization. So the Blackhawks are bringing back Ian Cole. So, or bringing in Ian Cole. So, I think Cole was just missed out on my end-to-end hockey trade board. So, very interesting note there. It sounds like Perry is also a 1 times $1 million deal, similar to Matt Zuccarello. So very interesting note there, but Zuccarello is going to be joining Perry as a couple of free agent additions here for the Los Angeles Kings. Once again, I'll really quickly here just recap some of the more recent signings. Let's see here. So there was 16 before, now it's 17, so there's another signing here. And that is, Ian Cole, 1 year, $4 million with the Chicago Blackhawks. So he winds up extending in the Blackhawks organization. So not a bad pickup here for Los Angeles, for Chicago. So here's some of the signings that have happened earlier today. Cole signs in Chicago. Schwartz signs in Colorado. Cole Smith signs in Chicago. Urson's back in Ottawa. Samoskevich signs an extension in Seattle. Mazur back in Detroit. Halla back into Los Angeles. Vladar extends in Philadelphia. Demidov extends in Montreal. Gudas is back in Florida. Zellweger's back in Buffalo. Romberg's back in Vegas. Anderson's back in Vegas, and then Heischer signs an extension with Jersey. Louis Ryan signs an extension in Florida, and Byram signs an extension in Chicago. So very interesting note there. Those are all the signs from the past couple of hours. It was the first few hour and with almost the first hour into free agency now. So very interesting to note there. Once again, let's see. Be very interesting to note there. We'll see what winds up happening here. Cole's 1 times 4.75 according to Elliot Freeman. So once again, not too surprising there. Let's see who else winds up being moved here. According to Elliot Freeman, he thinks Utah has some serious interest in Vincent Trocheck, who does wind up wanting to go east. So it'll be very interesting out there, but it does seem like Utah has some serious interest in Vincent Trocheck. So it will be very interesting to see what ends up happening there. So far, we have seen a couple of moves. Once again, more just veteran signings. Ian Cole, Cole Smith in Chicago, Jaden Schwartz in Colorado. Sounds like Perry, Zuccarello, Gustafson, all are signing in the Los Angeles Kings organization. So some very interesting updates here. Eric Hall as well in Los Angeles. So very interesting to note there. Sounds like Marchman's going to the San Jose Sharks. So that's interesting. I do wonder if we see maybe like a offer sheet or something like that. We'll see what ends up happening there. Hold on a minute here, folks. Be very interesting to see. It sounds like Lomberg is not going to Toronto. Columbus might be wind up acquiring Ryan Lomberg, so that could be interesting. Once again, according to Anthony DeMarco, the Flyers want at least $3 million retention on Darnell Nurse's AAV. So very interesting to note there. Let's see if there's any other big pieces of news. Once again, I do think that Dallas, after not getting Werenski yesterday, is probably due for a little bit of a regression step. So very interesting note there. It sounds like the Rangers and Bruins are just looking up on a deal. Rangers acquired Korpisalo from Boston for Vassinen and a 2028 fourth-round pick. So the Rangers are getting their new backup. Once again, Jonathan Quick retired this offseason. So the Rangers were in desperate need of a new backup. So it seems like Korpisalo is going to be going to the Rangers to be their new backup, and then Boston's going to get a prospect here in Vassinen and a 2028 fourth-rounder. So very interesting to note there. Korpisalo has been dealt to the New York Rangers. So this move is a pretty solid move here, in my opinion, for the Rangers. Korpisalo has actually been a pretty decent backup to Jeremy Swayman this past year. I think Korpisalo can give you like 15, 20, maybe 25 games of NHL action. So I don't think he's the greatest of backups, but it's a pretty solid one. And I do think he can sort of replicate what Jonathan Quick did for the New York Rangers the past couple of seasons. So very interesting note there, but good pickup here from the New York Rangers, putting some cap space to good use. I do wonder who Boston's backup is going to be for next year. Now Korpisalo is no longer there, so I do wonder what winds up happening there. So very interesting to note there. Let's see exactly what else winds up happening. Once again, it sounds like Carolina is not one of the front runners right now for John Carlson. So very interesting to note there. According to Pierre LeBrun, he hasn't closed the door, but it sounds like Tampa or Philadelphia are most likely scenarios here for John Carlson. Once again, some interesting pickups here, but not a whole bunch here from over the past couple of minutes. So we'll see what else winds up happening here. Sounds like Marchman's 5 times $7 million deal is close. So we'll see what winds up happening here. Let's see here. There have been a couple more signings recently. Once again, Vassinen and a 2028 fourth-round pick to the Boston Bruins in exchange for Jonas Korpisalo. So the Rangers have their new backup. So the Corey Perry extension is official. 1 year, $1 million to stay in the Los Angeles Kings organization for the second consecutive year. Once again, he signed there last year in the offseason. And then Ryan Lomberg signs a 2-year extension with AV of $1.3 million in the Blue Jackets organization. So Lomberg is now going to be joining Columbus. So I think I have Lomberg here on my list. Let me just double check here. Lomberg was number 35. So it sounds like he is going now to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that's very interesting to know there. The Jackets going to get a really solid bottom six forward here. And Ryan Lomberg, so really solid stuff there. Once we get some more official news, I'll update the free agent card. But at this current point in time, it seems like that is all. So very interesting to note there. Perry 1 times $1 million. It's not half bad there. Let's see here. Lomberg 2 times 1.3. 1 year, $1 million for Perry. According to Rick Dhaliwal, Canucks had an offer that was very strong to Cole, but he chose to go to Chicago. So very interesting there is the Canucks are trying to get back Ian Cole. Once again, it'll be very interesting to see what winds up happening here over the next over the next little bit. So very interesting to know there. Once again, we are still going to be with you guys for about the next hour-ish. Once again, talking about some very interesting things here. So let's see what else winds up happening. Hold on a minute here, folks. I'm just going to double check, make sure everything is still up and running and is good to go. Once again, we'll be having a couple of videos out maybe later today. We'll see, but definitely tomorrow and over the next couple of days talking about some very interesting updates here. So, very interesting so far. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. And let me just link some things here, and that should be good to go. So we are good here. So very interesting to note there. So we got some very interesting things here to talk about. Let's see exactly what ends up happening. So the Anderson deal is now official, 7 times 8.5 in Vegas. Lomberg's 2 times 1.3. Sounds like Marchman's going to San Jose on a 5-year deal. Once again, I'm actually not too upset with the term. I'm just not overly expecting a $7 million contract for Mason Marchman, but that's what it sounds like at this point in time. So very interesting to note there. It'll be very interesting to see where else some of these other guys wind up going. Let's see if there's been any updates when it comes to some signings. Nope, still Perry was the last one. So if we look at pure UFAs who have just signed their extensions at this point in time, not guys who sign extensions for next year, and not guys who are RFAs or who with a certain team and got extended. So once again, of course, Anderson and Romberg brought back by Vegas, and then of course, Eriksson was brought back by Ottawa and Mazur by Detroit. But if you look at the other guys here, Gudas winds up signing an extension in Florida. He was once again acquired just a couple of days ago in a signing right swap with Anaheim. So once again, Gudas is going to stay in Florida on a very cheap deal for the next 6 years. Los Angeles signs Eric Halla. Los Angeles signs Corey Perry. Los Angeles signs Matt Zuccarello. It also sounds like they're signing Eric Gustafsson. So some very interesting updates there for the Kings. When it comes to some other guys, on top of that, Cole Smith and Ian Cole have both been signed by the Chicago Blackhawks. So the Hawks are adding a couple of decent vets. The Columbus Blue Jackets have brought in Ryan Lomberg, so a little bit of a bottom six help there for the Blue Jackets. Jaden Schwartz has signed the Colorado Avalanche organization on a 3-year deal with an AAV of just over $3 million. So once again, those are some of the UFA signings that have happened so far, as Zuccarello, Perry, Gustafsson, and Hull are going to Los Angeles. Cole and Cole Smith are going to Chicago. We also saw Schwartz go to Colorado, Lomberg go to Columbus, and there's been a couple of other RFA signings and definitely some big-time extensions with Forster and Vladar in Philadelphia, Demidov in Montreal, Heischer in New Jersey, Byram in Chicago, and Louis Tourainen in Florida, all signing long-term big money extensions. So very interesting to know there. Once again, Freeman mentioned that Elliot Freeman mentioned that Elias Pettersson's ask is nowhere near what it once was under Jim Rutherford, so it seems like the offer for Elias Pettersson is a little bit lower than what everyone else was expecting. We have seen 3 trades earlier today, too, if you guys want to just really quickly recap here. Maverick Bourque and Yulia Bushkin, who was number 26 on the Into and Hockey trade board, were traded to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2027 second and 2028 third round pick, so a really solid get here for Nashville, getting a solid third pair defenseman and a lethal middle six forward. Well, for the Stars, they are able to get a couple of draft picks in return, so not too surprising there. And then on top of that, we also saw the just recently, the New York Rangers acquired Jonas Korpisalo from the Boston Bruins in exchange for Vassinen and a fourth-round pick. So the Rangers have their new backup after Cook retired, and he's going to be a really solid pickup here for the New York Rangers. So very interesting to note there. And then we also saw Nick Robertson reunite with Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, as Robertson is acquired by Pittsburgh from the Maple Leafs in exchange for a fourth-round pick. And the Leafs finally give Robertson his fresh start. So very interesting to note there. Those are some more interesting updates from our past little bit. I will just really quickly see what else ends up happening. It sounds like, according to someone, the Tampa Bay Lightning are signing Ilya Mikheyev to a 4-year contract with an AAV of $3.85 million. So it sounds like Mikheyev to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Once again, not sure if that is official or not, but it sounds like that is a possibility here. So it sounds like a potential signing here is in place for Tampa to get Ilya Mikheyev. I do think I have Mikheyev here on my list. So let me just put Mikheyev as Tampa. That should be correct. So let's see. Yes, Mikheyev was right here. So Mikheyev is going to go to Tampa Bay by the looks of things. So that's another interesting update there. He's just outside the top 20. So very interesting out there. But it sounds like Mikheyev to Tampa. So very interesting to note there. Let's see. What else winds up happening here? Colorado, of course, gets Schwartz. It sounds like a 4 times $3.85 million deal is going to Mikheyev. So it sounds like that deal is basically official. So that's really good stuff there for the Bolts. I thought he was going to get $5+ million. So getting him at under 4 is actually a steal, in my opinion, for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's really good stuff there. According to Pierre LeBrun, it sounds like Patrick Kane may not sign on July 1st. He is currently number 1 on my end-to-end hockey trade board. So very interesting to note there, but it does sound like Kane is not going to be extending maybe today. So it'll be interesting to see what else winds up happening here. Once again, it sounds like Sijin is going to Toronto. That's a possibility, but it's not a done deal at this current point in time. Let's see what else winds up happening here. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Let's see if there's anything else here. I don't see anything right now. Let's see here, folks. Hold on a minute here. Let's see. Once again, Sam Moskowitz extends. Let's see if there's any other updates when it comes to the extensions. Let's see. Where's Perry still the last one? Let's see. The last one was Ilya Mikheyev in Tampa. So Mikheyev has now officially been gone to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Mikheyev is going to sign in Tampa. So very interesting to note there. It'll be very interesting to see what else winds up coming out here today. Once again, do we see an offer sheet candidate? I'll actually really quickly here go over to some RFA updates and see who's offer sheet eligible. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on if you think some of these players are potentially going to be able to be had for the right price. So hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just going to go to the RFA lists here and see who's offer sheet eligible and see if you guys want to see. And I'll let you guys thoughts on if you think any of these guys are going to be signed to an offer sheet. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just give me one quick second. RFAs. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just going to try and figure this out. Once again, I would love to get your thoughts down below. Let's see. Offer sheet eligible. Hold on a minute here, folks. I'm just going to try and see. That's good. So I think that should fix it. So that should be good. Let's see. So there are 37, it looks like, skaters who could be offer sheet here at the NHL Sings. So once again, here is some of the offer sheet eligible candidates. So obviously Robertson in Dallas, Bedard in Chicago, Zegras in Philadelphia, Carlson in Anaheim, Fantilli in Columbus, McMichael in St. Louis, Chinnikov in Pittsburgh, Bork in Nashville now, Krebs in Buffalo, Stillinger in Columbus, Perfetti in Winnipeg, Drysdale in Philadelphia, Robertson in Pittsburgh, Bolduc in Montreal, Nemec in Calgary, Edvinsson in Detroit, Hayton in Utah, Mitnyakov in Anaheim, Schneider in New York, Lapierre in Pittsburgh, Dach in Montreal, and then Andrea in Toronto, Dach in Edmonton, and Mukamadulin in San Jose are all offer sheet eligible right now at the NHL level. So it'll be very interesting to see if any of those guys do wind up getting offer sheet extended. So we're interested to know there. It sounds like Noah Juleson is going to Colorado, according to Elliot Friedman, 2 years at a $1 million AAV. So very interesting to know there. Jeffrey Viel is going to Tampa. They got another bottom six forward. Really solid pickup here for Tampa. 5 years at $2.5 million. So it's about $2 million more expensive than AJ Guerrier, but for one more season. So not a bad pickup here, in my opinion, for the Tampa Bay Lightning signing Guerrier. Sounds like Ross Johnston is going from the Anaheim Ducks to the St. Louis Blues. So really solid bottom six forward there. The Blues are getting. And those seem like some of the more interesting signings from over the past couple of days. So let's see if those have been updated yet. So just give me one quick sec here, folks. The Forrester deal is now official. Dennis Gilbert's back in Buffalo on a one-year league minimum deal. So after spending 1 year away from the Sabres, he's going to go back to Buffalo. Of course, the Johnston extension as well in St. Louis. So some more lower-end guys do end up getting extended here in Gilbert and Johnston. So very interesting note there. Those are the more official signings. Once again, I'll be with you guys here for just under the next hour, and then I'll probably sign off. Once again, we'll have more update videos coming out either later today or tomorrow at some point, so I hope you guys are able to tune in for those ones. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how that all winds up playing out. So very interesting note there. So we'll be very interested to see how all that winds up going. Let's see. Once again, it'll be very interesting to see how the Sharks look. Once again, they're one of the bigger free agents. It sounds like in Mason Marchment. So I think that could be a really good pickup there for the Sharks, and they're building something special in San Jose. Once again, very interesting stuff here so far. Once again, Lomberg's going to Columbus. Once again, Ottawa is acquired Urson, so very interesting note there. It sounds like Nurse still does not want to extend his list, so very interesting to note there. According to Friedman, he still thinks that the Leafs are going to go after Sergei Bobrovsky, so very interesting stuff here. Let's see if there's any sort of other updates that have been coming in recently. So let's see. Roslovic, maybe an update here on Roslovic. I'm just looking at the feed here. Once again, they're talking about Roslovic. Not sure if this is an extension or just update here, but it does seem like Roslovic could be a guy who could be had today. So very interesting to note there, as we have heard a couple of guys wind up being moved. So very interesting stuff here. Let's see what else winds up happening. Once again, hold on a minute here, folks. Once again, they are looking for some things. Ian Cole, Chicago, it's a $4 million base salary with $750,000 in possible bonuses. So it could be upwards of 4.75. So once again, it's just a 1 year deal for the Chicago Blackhawks. If they're bad again next year, they can move him at the trade deadline. So that's not a half bad pickup there. Once again, Johnston signs in St. Louis. VL signs in Tampa. Mikheyev signs in Tampa. According to Pagnoa, there's plenty of interest in LA Tolvanen, but nothing's close at the moment, and he continues to weigh the offers in about 4 to 5 years, so he's probably going to get a 4 to 5 year deal with the team who winds up signing him. So very interesting to note there. For some other things, it sounds like Roslovic's going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, according to Chris Johnston. So Roslovic's heading to Toronto. So that's a very interesting pickup here for the Maple Leafs, as they are able to sign the sniper and Jack Roslovic. That's not a bad pickup here, in my opinion, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Roslovic is signed in Toronto. Mike Benning, who was a prospect in Florida, sounds like he's going to Calgary on a 1 year, 2 way contract, according to Darren Dreger, so that makes some sense. Let's see. Declan Carlisle, who was in Tampa last year, signs a 2 year deal in the Penguins organization. So Carlisle is going to be joining the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's see if there's any other big pieces of news. Doesn't seem like it. So some more interesting signings. It seems like Carlisle's going to Pittsburgh. Roslovic's going to Toronto. Roslovic's actually on my list here. So let's once again try and update this here. Juleson is in Colorado. VL has gone to Tampa. So very interesting. There's some interesting updates here when it comes to some signings. So hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Let me just try and work out this here. So, VL I think was actually on my list here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, VL was 30, so VL is now going to go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Bolts are going to sign VL. I don't think anyone else is signed here who's once again on my list. So I think that's all for now at this point. So interesting stuff there. Pretty solid stuff here so far. We are expecting Marchman announcement in the very near future, but that has not been official at this current point in time. The Roslovic deal, however, is 2 years at $4 million for Roslovic, so not a bad contract there. He started to disappear in the playoffs for the Oilers and has a tendency to disappear in the playoffs, but is actually still a pretty decent guy who can put up 20 to 25 goals in the regular season. So very interesting note there. Roslovic was number 23 on my free agent board, so he is now off as the free agent board is taking a little bit of a hit right now with Toronto getting Roslovic, so very good stuff there. Once again, it sounds like Vic Arvidsson is now being signed. It's a 2-year, $5 million AAV deal for Vic Arvidsson from the Red Wings, so at least it's a short-term deal. Not a bad pickup there for the Red Wings, and I do think Arvidsson could work out really well in the Red Wings organization. So very interesting to note there. Once again, 2 years, $5 million. Roslovic signs in Toronto. Arvidsson signs in Detroit. Forrester's extension is official. So very interesting note there. Carlisle signed in Pittsburgh. Once again, he wasn't on my trade board, but free agent board. But I do think he's a really solid pickup here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So really solid pickup here. LA's gone Corey Perry, Matt Zuccarello, on top of a couple of other lower-end guys, and guys like Eric Gustafson and Eric Holla. So some interesting pickups there for the Los Angeles Kings. The Avs get their Drew replacement in Jaden Schwartz. It's not a bad pickup here. It sounds like Mason Marchman is heading to the San Jose Sharks on a 5-year deal. So it sounds like the Sharks are going to be going and acquiring Mason Marchman in free agency. A little bit of an overpayment, in my opinion, with a $7 million AAV. Not a bad pickup there, in my opinion. I do think he could be a really solid pickup there. The Bolts have recently signed VL and Mikheyev, 2 new deals. I think VL's is 5 years at $2.5 million, and Mikheyev's is 4 years at just over $4 million, just under $4 million. So not a bad pickup here for Mikheyev going to the Tampa Bay Lightning. On top of that, Toronto's just signed Jack Roslovic, who was number 24, I think, on my end-to-end hockey trade deals, or number 23. And Vic Arvidsson, who was also in the 20s in my end-to-end hockey trade free agent board, has gone to the Detroit Red Wings. So very interesting note there, but a couple more guys have been moved as Arvidsson goes to Detroit and Toronto gets Roslovic. So very interesting to note there. Once again, there's still some very big names on the free agent market. Carlson, Jacob Trouba still on the free agent market. Number 4 on the free agent market, in my opinion, is... who was number 4 on the free agent market? Marchman, but he looks like he's going to sign. Number 5 on the free agent board was Patrick Kane, but it sounds like he might take a couple of days to decide. Number 6 on my free agent board was Mantha. Haven't heard much about Mantha today. Number 7 on my free agent board was Bobrovsky. Haven't heard much about him either so far today. Number 8 on my free agent board was Ferraro, and there hasn't some talk about him, but he still hasn't signed. Number 9 is Zuccarello. He is in Los Angeles now after signing a 1-year contract. Number 10 in the organization, number 10 on the free agent board was Skinner, and he's once again another guy who has been mentioned a little bit, but not really anything huge that's been talked about for him. Tarasenko's number 11 on my free agent board, and once again, not really a whole bunch have been talked about him so far today. Number 12 on my free agent board was Anders Lee. There was a lot of talk leading up today, but I haven't heard really much about Lee earlier today. Oleksiak, Tolvanen. There's been some various aspects of mentioning about those guys, but there hasn't been a whole bunch. Haven't heard much about Ryan Shea today. Haven't heard much about Boone Jenner. Haven't heard much about Matias Maccelli. Schwartz obviously signed in Colorado. Haven't heard much about Kapanen and haven't heard much about Laine. So haven't heard much about any of these guys. Noel Acciari signed in the other Pennsylvania team. So Acciari has just signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. He goes from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia as a Flyers signed him to a 2-year extension with an AAV of $2.8 million. The Winnipeg Jets are signing Stuart Skinner 2 years at $3.75 million AAV. Are the Jets gearing up for a Connor Hellebuyck deal? Is this the sort of deal that they are getting to either backstop Connor Hellebuyck, or are they going to give Stuart Skinner the crease to trade Connor Hellebuyck? Interesting note there, 2 years, just under $4 million, and Stuart Skinner is going to the Winnipeg Jets. So that's a really good pickup there for the Jets as they're able to get Skinner, and I do wonder if that maybe leads us to a Connor Hellebuyck deal of sorts. So very interesting to note there, but Skinner is wound up signing in Winnipeg, and we'll see if this winds up leading to a Connor Hellebuyck deal. Once again, Arvidsson's still the last signing so far officially, so we'll see if that winds up changing. Once again, I'll be with you guys for the next half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll probably call it quits. I've got a couple of things to do today, so I will try and do a couple more videos later today. If not today, we'll definitely do a couple more tomorrow. We're going to have a couple involving some signings updates, some trade updates. We're going to have probably a couple more trade rumors and things like that over the next couple of days. Once again, this is a little bit of a weaker free agent class, so not as many free agents to talk about, but it's still looking like it's pretty interesting, and we'll see if there's maybe some RFAs who will wind up getting signed. Once again, I'll let you guys thoughts in the chat below. Here are some of the bigger RFAs, and I'll let you guys thoughts if you think there could be some of these guys who wind up getting offer sheeted. Jason Robertson, Connor Bedard, Trevor Zegras, Leo Carlson, Adam Fantilli, Connor McMichael, Igor Chinnikov, Maverick Bork, Peyton Krebs, Cole Sillinger, Cole Perfetti, Jamie Drysdale, Nick Robertson, Zach Bolduc, Simone Nemec, Simone Edmondson, Barrett Hayton, Pavel Mitnikov, Brandon Schneider, and Hendrix Lapierre are all guys who are currently RFAs and offer sheet eligible, so we'll see if one of them winds up signing an extension. The Skinner deal is official. Skinner signs in Winnipeg 2 years at $3.75 million, so not a bad pickup there for the Jets. We are going to really quickly change some things up here to get the Jets here, so just give me one quick second here, folks. I'm just going to really quickly do this, so hold on a minute here, folks. Put this there. I'll switch that over here. So very good stuff there. Once again, I really do like the signing here for the Jets, and I do wonder if this is a prelude to a Connor Hellebuyck trade. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Once again, it's a 2-year contract for Stuart Skinner with the AAV of $3.75 million. So not a bad pickup here as Skinner is able to get a contract and go to the Winnipeg Jets organization. So very interesting note there. I do like this addition here for the Jets as they're able to get Stuart Skinner, and maybe we see a Connor Hellebuyck trade at some point. So very interesting to note there. Let's see here. There we are. So that is good. So we will be putting Stuart Skinner and updating his thing. So just give me one quick sec here, folks. I'm just going to move this over here. Skinner has now signed in Winnipeg, so that is going to be updated. So really good stuff there for Stuart Skinner as he is going to go to Winnipeg and either be Connor Hellebuyck's backup or be the new starter if Hellebuyck is traded. So very interesting to know there, as it's been a really solid day so far for some of these teams to sign. Once again, so far off of my end-to-end hockey free agent board, we've seen 4 players we've taken off, including Anderson, Schwartz, Zuccarello, and Skinner. So very interesting out there, and Stuart Skinner is a really solid pickup here for the Winnipeg Jets. So very interesting to note there. We'll see how that winds up going, but still very interesting to note there. We'll see about a couple of other things. Let's see here if there's been any other updates here. Noel Acciari's deal is official, 2 years, $2.8 million. Not a bad gamble here from the Philadelphia Flyers. So very interesting to note there. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Give me one quick second here. So we need to move him up twice. And then this one's deleted. I think, just give me one quick sec here, folks. I'm just going to try to figure out how to put that back on. And then Acciari is signed in Philadelphia. Once again, I think Achari actually might be on my trade list. I'll have to go double check. Let's see here. So once again, Skinner goes to Winnipeg. I do wonder if this is a prelude to a Connor Hellebuyck trade. I think that's a possibility. So we're very interested to see if that is exactly what winds up happening. So very interesting to know there. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. So we do have some very interesting things. I don't know exactly how many more teams are going to be able to do some more things. I think San Jose is going to be looking at some defensemen over the next couple of days. Anaheim's going to be looking for some defensemen help. We'll actually just really quickly look at each specific division team really quickly here and see exactly what they need to do. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's see. Okay, so this one is gone. So there we are. So that's good. So once again, we'll just look at some of these teams here with it being half an hour, 45 minutes until I end the live stream and look at some teams' potential needs. So for the Anaheim Ducks, I think they still need some more defensive help. They have a pretty decent forward group and still need to sign Carlson and Gauthier, but I do think they could really benefit from having maybe one more forward, and I do think they need some drastic defensive help. So very interesting to note there. Let's see here, folks. Hold on a minute here. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Hold on a minute here. Let's see here. Just give me one quick second here, folks. Just gotta fix a couple of things really quickly here. Hold on a minute here, folks. According to Dave Pagnotta, Mantha's working on options, but is not yet close. So that's why Mantha deal is not yet materialized. So very interesting to note there. Let's see here what else ends up happening. Rick Dollywell does wonder if the Canucks should maybe go after Luke Shin after missing out on Ian Cole. So very interesting to note there. Let's see here, folks. Just give me one quick second. 1, 2. So it'll be very interesting to see what else winds up happening. But it's been a very interesting day so far on the free agent market. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we'll see exactly what else winds up happening. But it's been very interesting so far to see all of these guys wind up signing their new extensions. So very interesting stuff here has been happening so far. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just gotta really quickly do something here. Let's see. Once again, we have had some very interesting updates here so far. So it'll be very interesting to see who else winds up going after some of these guys. Let's see if there's been any sort of updates. Yeah, so Skinner is going to Winnipeg. Once again, I do wonder if that leads to a Connor Hellebuyck trade. I think that is a possibility. So very interesting to note there. But it does seem like Stuart Skinner is heading to the. It does seem like Stuart Skinner is heading to the Winnipeg Jets. So a very interesting pickup here. There was a lot of talk that teams like Ottawa and Columbus had some interest in Skinner, so those teams do miss out. And it is the Winnipeg Jets who are able to acquire him. If there's going to be a really good backup behind Connor Hellebuyck, or the Jets are going to trade Connor Hellebuyck and he's going to be their team starter for the upcoming season. So either way, it's a pretty solid pickup here from the so either way, it's a really solid pickup here from the Winnipeg Jets being able to get Stuart Skinner. So very interesting note there. Once again, Cole Smith signed 3 years at $3 million a year. So very interesting pickup here from the Blackhawks getting Cole Smith. So very interesting to note there. Once again, just give me one quick sec here, folks. So once again, very interesting stuff here. We've seen a ton of signings so far, a number of them. So once again, according to Freeman, Razlovic's deal is officially done. Korpisalo traded earlier today to the New York Rangers. Mikheyev signed in Tampa. Stuart Skinner signs in Winnipeg. Anderson's official in Vegas. So it'll be very interesting to see what else winds up happening here. A couple of other extensions have been announced, as Joe Veleno is going to New York on a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. So the Rangers add some pretty solid addition here. in Joe Veleno. So very interesting stuff there, as Veleno is going to join the New York Rangers organization. So that's a pretty solid pickup there for the Rangers. And then on top of that, Declan Carlisle, who was actually a pretty decent spare defenseman in the Bolts organization last year, is going to stay in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. It's not a bad pickup there from the Penguins, as they are able to acquire Declan Carlisle. So very interesting to note there, as Carlisle is going to be signing in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization on a 2-year deal. So that's very interesting to note there. Let's see here what else winds up happening. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Okay, so we do have a couple of other things being talked about here. Once again, Paul Cotter signing with the Vancouver Canucks. So once again, Cotter was not qualified by the Devils. They didn't want to bring him back. So he's going to sign Vancouver. Really solid middle six guy, so I don't mind this deal for the Canucks. Maybe they try and trade him at the trade deadline if he's not working out really well. But 1 year, just over $2 million, not a bad pickup here for the Vancouver Canucks. So I think I had him on my list. Let's just double check here. Yeah, number 34. So Cotter is now in Vancouver. So a pretty solid pickup there from the Vancouver Canucks. They're able to sign Paul Cotter. Still some very interesting names here left on my free agent board. Once again, really quickly, just going to go and run down my top 50 and see who's still left. So Jacob Trouba, who is number 1 on my free agent board, is still available. Haven't heard much about him today. John Carlson still available. Once again, it seems like he's sort of a plan B for a couple of teams. So we'll see if Carlson does wind up getting extended with by some team. It sounds like Patrick Kane's going to take a couple of days to sort of figure out where he's going to go. So don't expect a Patrick Kane signing today. Mantha's going through a couple of options. Same thing with Ferraro. So we'll have to wait and see if those two go somewhere. Bobrovsky's been mentioned a couple of times over the past little while. Sounds like the Leafs could potentially get him, but there's been no talks about him today. Tarasenko, Lee, Oleksiak, Tolvanen, Shea, Jenner, and Michelli have all been talked about a bit, but none of them have signed so far. Kapanen hasn't signed yet. Laine hasn't signed yet. Neither has Kuzmenko, Stanley. Neither has Connor Ingram. Neither has Claude Giroux. Neither has Frederick Anderson. Neither has Alex Ovechkin. Neither has Oliver Bjorkstrand, John Beecher. Neither has Gustav Nyquist. Neither has Andrew Peeke. Neither has Ville Heinola. Neither has Scott Lawton. Neither has Alex Kerfoot, Michael Bunting, Riley Smith, Maxim Shabanov, Tarasov, Brisson, James Van Riemsdyk, Grushnikov, and Bluger. So very interesting to note there, but not a whole bunch of signings from our past little bit. Once again, it sounds like DeBrusk is staying for the time being at this current point. So very interesting note there. According to Darren Dreger, the Stars remain open to moving Jason Robertson, so we'll see if that winds up happening. Once again, hearing Desharnais, according to a Sharks reporter, is not going to be brought back by the San Jose Sharks, so very interesting to note there. And yeah, there's not been a whole bunch of other things that have been mentioned at this point. Let's see if there's been any other updated signings here. There's been a couple, 2 more extension signings. Daniel Klimovich, who was not qualified by the Vancouver Canucks, has signed over in the Philadelphia Flyers organization. So Klimovich is going over to Philadelphia. And then Trevor Van Riemsdyk joining Pittsburgh on a 2-year deal with a $4 million. Once again, the Penguins have an abundance of right-handed defensemen, so I do wonder, could we see an Erik Karlsson trade? Are some of the free agent moves alluding to a Hellebuyck and Karlsson trade coming out either later today or over the next couple of days? I think that has a possibility. So very interesting to note there. But Trevor Van Riemsdyk has signed a 2-year extension, $4 million AAV in Pittsburgh, as the Penguins signed Trevor Van Riemsdyk and the Jets signed Stuart Skinner. So very interesting to note there. We'll once again really quickly go here and see if there's been any other big interesting pieces of news. Doesn't look like it. We got 3 trades earlier today. So very interesting to note there. Let's see here. Once again, let's see exactly what else winds up happening here. Cotter, once again, 1 times 2.15 for the Vancouver Canucks. Roslovic, Forrester, Juleson, Mikheyev. Let's see here. Gudas once again signs Cotter. So once again, just a couple of lower end signings that have happened for the past little while. I'll be with you guys for about the next 15-ish minutes. And then we'll probably sign off. Once again, definitely a very slow day because there's not a whole bunch of key marquee free agents, and it seems that there's a lot of trades that might be percolating but haven't been announced yet. So very interesting to note there, but it has been a little bit of a slower day. I was always expecting this, which is why I think we haven't had as many views as the last couple of years, because Yeah, it's just a really, really slow day when it comes to the free agency market. So once again, also happy Canada Day to everyone who's Canadian and who celebrates Canada Day in Canada. I am a Canadian as well, so happy Canada Day to everyone out there. And I hope you guys are able to have a good Canada Day. So once again, we'll see what ends up happening here. We do have some very interesting things that are coming up here. So once again, Urson signs a 2-year extension. Sharks sound like they're signing Marchment, Colorado with Juleson. So some very interesting signings here from over the past little while. We'll see exactly what ends up happening here. It sounds like Scott Peronovich has signed a 1-year, $900,000 deal in Los Angeles. So the Kings have made another signing, and it seems like that is Scott Peronovich. So very interesting to note there. We'll see exactly what else ends up happening here. So once again, just in case I am not going to be able to say this before I sign off in about 15 minutes, we will have some more videos coming out. I still have a draft recap video that I haven't edited yet. I was hoping to get it edited over the last couple of days, but there's been too many trades and signings and things like that. So I'm hoping over the next couple of days to get that video finished up. Once again, I'm going to have potentially a couple of low update videos later tonight. Maybe we'll see some short form like signing recaps, some maybe longer form signing recaps, as well as some trade updates. Over the next couple of days, we'll also have some signing and trade updates as well. So that will be coming out in the very near future. We're going to have a couple more trade rumors. And then next week, we're probably going to have a couple more skits, things like that. So we're going to do like every fan reaction to free agency so far until like the draft. We're going to have what the NHL has script for the NHL draft. We'll probably have one for the free agency the following week. Once again, a little bit backdated. We're probably going to have a couple of lower end, very interesting things. Once again, trade rumors are going to come out over the next little bit. We're going to have trade updates, signing updates. Probably going to be one of the more busier off seasons because there's going to be a lot more signing trades and signings. So very interesting to note there. But yeah, that's the sort of signings that we're going to be doing over the next little bit. So more updates when it comes to signings and trades that are going to be happening over the next little bit. Trade rumors over the next couple of days. Once again, next week we're probably going to have a couple of skits for some of the things that happened. Once again, we're probably going to have a couple of other very interesting pieces of news. What the NHL has script for free agent for a draft next week. So I hope you guys are able to tune in for all of those ones. Once again, we're going to continue on with all of the trade stuff we do have over the next little bit. So very interesting out there. Another signing, Matias Maccelli is signed in New York. A 1-year, $2.3 million deal. And it looks like Maccelli is going to be going to the Islanders organization. Maccelli is actually in the top 20 of my end-to-end hockey free agent board. So very interesting to note there. Let's see exactly what ends up happening here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let me see if I can find some updates here. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Thus, selling the Islanders are signing Vitek Vanacek as well in a 1-year, $1 million deal, just insurance for Semyon Varlamov. So, very interesting note there, but that's some of the Islanders are signing Matias Maccelli. So, I'll actually sort of just update that here. Let's see if I can find some sort of updates. Yeah, Islanders signing Maccelli. That seems like a done deal now. 1 times 2.25. So Maccelli is going to be going to the New York Islanders organization. So very interesting to note there. I think I put Maccelli here. Okay, so just let me put this over here. So just give me one quick second here, folks. And once again, I'll let you guys thoughts on what your guys' thoughts have been so far on free agency. Are you surprised that it's been a little bit slower? Were you expecting that? And do you think we see some trades happen later today? If so, what sort of trades could wind up happening? What about Connor Hellebuyck? What about Erik Karlsson? Sounds like those guys could potentially get moved for the right price, so we'll have to wait and see on that, but not a bad pickup here, as we could see some more trades happen in the very near future. So hope you guys are able to tune in for those ones. Just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just double checking this stuff here. Once again, I do appreciate all of you guys for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a couple more videos coming over the next little bit, talking about more news and rumors from over the past couple of days. So very interesting to note there. Let me just get the Maccelli signing there. So just give me one quick second here, folks. Maccelli has just signed in the Islanders organization, so not a bad pickup there for New York as they are able to get Matias Maccelli. So good stuff there for the New York Islanders. Let's add Matias Maccelli. Let's go over here, and Machias Machelli. Let's go down here. So Machelli's over here, I think. So we'll move him up to. Let's just double check that in a minute. So just give me one quick sec here, folks. Once again, let's see if there's any other sort of updates here that have been announced over the past little while. Once again, just looking at some of the other things that have been happening over the past couple of hours. I'll be with you guys here for about the next 15-ish minutes. So once again, I do appreciate all you guys for tuning in today. Once again, hopefully you guys are able to tune in for the upcoming videos in the next little bit. So very interesting to note there. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see if anything else is happening here. Let's see. So just give me one quick sec here, folks. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. So this one should be good to delete. And that should be all right. Okay. So I think that's all good now. So Machelli goes to the New York Islanders. So that seems that is a done deal now. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we'll be with you guys here for just the next couple of minutes. So Machelli and Vanacek have signed in NYI. Kirkland, former Flames player in the AHL, has signed in Minnesota, and Paul Cotter signs a one-year deal in Vancouver. So some more guys on the end-to-end hockey trade free agent board have been signed by a couple of other interesting teams. So very interesting to note here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Yep, that's all good. So we'll move this one here. So Cotter, I think, was on my list here. Yep, we already put him there. Machelli was number 17, so he goes to NYI. So good pickup there for the Islanders. And then who else was just signed? Vanacek, I don't think was on my list. I don't think Kirkland was on my list. I know Perunovic was on my list. So yeah, those ones are all still interesting there. Once again, you're not missing a thing. We are just here looking for some more news that's going to be happening over the next little bit. Once again, we saw some very interesting signings I think could lead to trades because Trevor Van Riemsdyk signed in Pittsburgh and Stuart Skinner signed in Winnipeg. I do wonder if this is preludes to Hellebuyck and Erik Carlson deals because Carlson is a right-hand defenseman, and the Penguins now have 4 second, third pair right shot defensemen. So do they wind up moving a guy like Erik Carlson? Do the Jets mind moving Hellebuyck now that they have Stuart Skinner? That's a possibility. So we're going to have to wait and see on all of that. But very interesting to note there that those are some things we could be seeing in the very near future. So once again, very interesting stuff here so far. Let's see any updates here when it comes to potential signings. Not at this current point in time. Let's see here. Once again, some of the bigger names are still on the free agent board. So let's see here. Machelli is signing with the Islanders. The Avalanche signed Juleson. The Jets signed Skinner. The Kings still trying to talk to Lawton, but nothing's done yet. So it sounds like Lawton is still being talked about as potentially going back to Los Angeles. So that's very interesting to know there. Will be very interesting to see how all this winds up going. So the Oilers are definitely not doing anything, it seems like, at this point. So once again, I'll stay with you guys for the next few minutes. And if nothing else really big happens, I'll probably just sign off. So very interesting to note there. We'll see exactly what else winds up happening here. But yeah, it's been a pretty slow free agent day, as you'd expect. So very interesting to note there. Once again, we have seen a couple of players be taken off the free agent board, as Machelli in NYI, Schwartz in Colorado, Vegas signed Anderson, Zuccarello signed in Los Angeles, Skinner signed in Winnipeg, and there seems to be an agreement in place for Marchman going to San Jose, but hasn't been official yet, so it seems like all of those ones are going to be gone. At this point in time, we'll just look at some of the guys who are still on my free agent board in the top 20. So Trouba's still on there. We'll see where he winds up going. John Carlson's still on there. Patrick Kane's still on the board. Mantha's still on the board. Bobrovsky's still on the board. Ferraro's still on the board. So those guys are all still on the board. Trouba, Carlson, Kane, Mantha, Bobrovsky, Ferraro. So 6 of the top 10 players on my list are still there. Tarasenko, Lee, Alexiak, Tolvanen, Shea, Jenner, and Kapanen and Line are all still there too. So 14 of my top 20 players are still on my trade bait board, free agent board. But once again, some players could still end up getting signed. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Let's see here. Let's see here for the Jets. Once again, they signed. Uh, Once again, the Seattle Kraken, once again, the Winnipeg Jets signed Stuart Skinner. I do wonder if this is maybe a prelude to a Connor Hellebuck deal. So very interesting to note there. So far, no action on Giroux. Wonder if he circles back to Ottawa. Once again, wonder if Elias Pettersson gets moved. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how the next couple of days go. I will have some more updates. So once again, you guys are not missing anything. And we will be having some more videos out in the very near future. Once again, it sounds like John Carlson isn't close with a deal with the Philadelphia Flyers, so it'll be very interesting to see how some of these older players go and how much money they are able to get. So, very interesting to note there. Let's see here. Once again, Ottawa signs Arvidsson to Detroit, Michelli to NYI, Skinner to Pittsburgh, or Skinner to Winnipeg, VL to Tampa. So, yeah, some very interesting signing updates from our past little while. Let's see if there's been any updates here. Actually, there has been a signing here. Atlee Calvert, who was a undrafted prospect, has signed a 2-year contract in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh gives Calvert a ELC. Very interesting pickup there, and we'll see how Calvert does in the Penguins organization. So very interesting note there. So once again, what are some things I could be looking at here going forward? So once again, when it comes to my channel, we do have some very interesting things going forward. Later today, we might have some more updates involving signings and trades, depending on how much stuff winds up coming out. On top of that, we will be having some more videos over the next couple of days doing signing and trade updates. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to get to today because I do have a couple of things planned for Canada Day, which happy Canada Day for anyone who is in Canada. But once again, I do have a couple of things planned for later today, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to get done with some signing and trade updates, but we will be getting to at least a couple of them. And then, of course, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, we'll definitely be doing some more signing and trade updates. Once again, I expect to be some more interesting things happen over the next couple of days. Next week, we'll have signing and trade updates as they come in. We'll also have a couple of trade rumor videos. We'll also have what if the NHL has a script for the free agency, what if the NHL has a script for the draft. Draft will probably be next week. Free agency will probably be the week after. And then on top of that, we'll also have maybe some more fan reactions to things that happened. So we'll see what winds up happening there. But once again, not half bad there in my opinion that we're going to have some more things coming out next week. So hope you guys are able to tune in for all of the content that's going to be coming out later this week, later next week, and then of course throughout the entirety of the off season leading up to next year. So very interesting to note there. Let's see exactly if there's anything else here that I really want to touch on here. I'll be with you guys in the next couple of minutes. We'll see if there's any big things that wind up coming through. If there is, I might stay on for a couple of extra minutes, but most likely I'm going to be signing off in the very near future. Let's see here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Just double checking some things. Let's see here. According to recent reports, Matt Kessel signing with the New York Islanders on a 1-year deal. One way, $850,000. Not a bad pickup there. Let's see. According to some recent reports, Werenski, his agent, and the GM of the Jackets, Don Waddell, according to Darren Dreger, have spoke today in efforts to clear the air and calm some things down. According to the report, Werenski is comfortable going back to Columbus. Waddell could present him with a trade in the meantime, but that isn't on the radar at this point. So it sounds like at this point in time, Werenski more than likely is probably going to go back to Columbus for the upcoming season, and we'll see where everything winds up going there. Maybe there is still a trade that winds up happening, but it seems like Werenski is probably going to stay at this point in time, according to Darren Dreger, so that makes some sense. And after the whole fiasco yesterday of him not going to Dallas, not getting out there, it seems like he's sort of soured a little bit on a trade. So we'll see exactly what ends up happening here. But Zach Werenski, it looks like is going to go to at least the start of next year on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So very interesting to note there. Let's see if there's been anything else here. Hold on a minute here, folks. Once again, I don't see any other big interesting pieces of news here. Let's go over here and see if there's been any updates. Matthew Kessel with the New York Islanders, but that's basically it. So those are going to be basically all the things we're going to be talking about here today. I'm probably just going to sign off at this point. So once again, I'll come out with you guys for some more signing updates and trade updates over the next couple of hours. I'll try and get a couple of things out. So once again, hope you guys are able to tune in for those videos coming out in the very near future. Once again, we're definitely going to be having a couple of videos in the next little bit, so hope you guys are able to tune in for those ones. Once again, thank you guys for all of your support for joining me on Canada Day for free agency. I do appreciate all of you guys for your support. We are going to be going and doing a couple more things in the very near future. Actually, wait a second here, folks. There has been another signing. Looks like Luke Schenn might be going to the Vancouver Canucks again. So just give me one quick second here, folks, before I completely sign off. Let's see. Hold on a minute here, folks. I think I saw Schenn being signed by the Vancouver Canucks. Let's just double check here, folks, before I wind up calling it a day. Once again, yep, Schenn is back on a 1-year, $2.25 million deal in Vancouver. So Schenn is going back to the Vancouver Canucks. Let's see here. Yeah, Schenn's going back to Vancouver. Hold on a minute here, folks. Let's see. Vancouver is getting Schenn back, so very interested to know there. But that seems to be the only real big interesting piece of news from the past little while. So Luke Schenn is going back to the Vancouver Canucks, but that's going to conclude today's free agency video. Once again, been a very slow day. Still some guys here on my end-to-end hockey free agent board who could wind up being dealt. And once again, we'll be talking about them in separate videos. So once again, I'm going to be signing off here today. Once again, we are going to be having some more interesting updates here over the next little bit. I'll be having some more signing and trade update videos out later today, talking about some of these interesting things that happened. Not all of them are going to be coming out today because I do have a couple of other things planned for Canada Day. But some of them might come out tomorrow. But we will tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, definitely have some more signing and trade updates. We'll have a couple of trade videos for the rest of this week. Next week, we're probably going to have a What If the NHL Has a Script for the draft. We're going to have a couple of fan reactions to some things that have happened over the past couple of weeks. We're probably going to have a couple of other shorts and things like that. Of course, trade rumors, as well as trade updates and signing updates. Big pieces of news are going to have their own dedicated video. So very interesting out there. But we're going to have some more off-season content next week. So very interesting to note there. I really do appreciate all of you guys for your support. I don't know when my next live stream will be. It'll probably be a little bit of time before my next live stream ends up happening. So once again, thank you guys for all of your support for the live stream today, for the live streams during the draft, for the live streams at certain points during the playoffs. So I really do appreciate you guys for your support. If you're just tuning out, leave a like on the video, comment, subscribe, tell your friends the best hockey content on YouTube is right here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. So I really do thank you guys all for your support. It really means a lot to me. And once again, hopefully you guys are able to tune in for my upcoming videos, signing, trade update, things like that. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. Have a good Canada Day. Hope you guys are able to do very good. And we'll see how many other big time free agents will be getting signed in the very near future. God bless y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one.